Okay, my mic was not plugged in. It's difficult because I have like a mic. Sorry, I have a MacBook, and I need an adapter, and I didn't plug it in. Anyways, that was my bad. Okay, so take two. Okay, that was just a practice run. It's okay. It's okay, girl. You can't let them win, girl. Water break. So thirsty. It's hot. It's always so hot in this room. God. Every room is cold except for this one because the sun is facing this way. Welcome back to The Thoughtful Advocate. I'm your host, Elizabeth Teo, and today is going to be another very personal episode. We're going to be talking about boundaries and family. I know, if you're someone who grew up as a people pleaser, that's something that doesn't go together, especially in immigrant and Asian households. It's about choosing yourself and the deep, painful process of finding peace, even when you feel like you're letting everyone else down. So if you've ever felt torn between choosing your own healing and your family's expectations, this episode's for you. A couple years ago, I made the decision to cut out my dad. And that wasn't easy, to say the least. I didn't invite him to my wedding, which is huge. I knew he would trigger me. And honestly, that was the last thing I wanted on my most important day with John. And it was a beautiful day. It was perfect. I could have not wished for anything else. And I'll talk about this in another episode. But ultimately, the last straw for me was he blamed me and my mom for my brother's mental breakdown. And I won't go too much detail into it, but it was very similar to mine. And honestly, it stems from a lot of past trauma. And just because it didn't happen right away doesn't mean that the past wasn't the cause. Like, something could have triggered it, but a lot of your trauma could come back all at once. And my brother and I, we were in survival mode for the longest time. I don't know about his current situation in detail, but for mine, even after I left the house, like, my father's words still haunt me. And it's ingrained deep in my mind. And I really thought that getting out of that house was my ticket to freedom. Little did I know, trauma goes with you. Getting out of a dangerous, abusive, and violent household will bring you some peace, but it can affect you for years afterwards, because your mind is also your house. If you think about it, you'll clean your house, you'll tidy everything up, but also you have to clean your mind, cleanse your mind, heal your soul and your heart. They're all connected. So for me, sure, I left the physical space. I was in a safe space, living with my aunts, which was actually really great. But in my mind, I never felt safe. Like, I felt safe physically, but mentally wasn't there. According to developmental psychologists, a child's sense of self-worth and identity begins as early as 2 years old, all the way to 7. So those are very core years, and an important time because the brain is highly impressionable. And during this time, verbal repeated messages from parents and family become internalized as core beliefs, whether they're positive or negative. Dr. Bruce Perry, a renowned child psychiatrist, emphasizes the more frequently that a child hears something, especially from a trusted adult, the more likely it is that they make it part of their internal narrative, part of their identity. I didn't realize this until therapy, so it's very important to get a therapist, multiple therapists, to see which one works for you. But I didn't realize the voice in my head, the critic, a lot of it stemmed from the words of my father. You're dumb, you're an idiot, you're a moron. Like, those words would repeat every single time. I felt bad for myself, I made a mistake, just in life, and I really believed that I was dumb, even though I'm not. And that's the part that requires years of work. So therapy, going through all the stages of grief, really feeling the pain from those words and your past trauma so that you can release it. Or you can channel it into passion for my podcast, passion for helping other people. It doesn't have to stay this negative thing. You can use it to empower yourself. It's very easy to fall into the victim mindset when you've gone through something traumatic, and I know, But if you continue to identify as a victim past the point where you're no longer getting abused, then you'll always identify yourself as a victim. And that's going to haunt you for years to come. And the only person you have to blame after that is yourself. You really have to take responsibility for your own life, which is really hard because it took me a decade to really come to terms with that. And I'm very lucky. A decade might sound long, but some people never recover from their past traumas. And I know some past traumas can be more painful than others, but honestly, this is your own life story. But if you don't move on from this, then it's going to control your entire life. And you can't let them win. So you have to take control of your life today. See a therapist, work out, get fresh air, take care of your body, take care of your mind, and ultimately build yourself up again, even if it's from scratch, because you owe it to yourself. So I cut my dad out, but here's the thing. My grandma, which is his mom, continued to tell me like, oh, go see your father. He's a father pig. He's blood. He's family. Family is the most important thing. She says in Cantonese, so I translate it in my own words. He's your father, so you have to forgive him. You have to move on. No matter what, he's always your father. Past me would have been like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then ultimately resent and regret and feel so much pain because of that. Because I'm not respecting my own boundaries. I'm just doing what I'm told. And the more that you disrespect yourself, and the more that you let other people cross your boundaries, the less worthy you feel of having those boundaries. Your self-esteem plummets. I love my grandma, and I understand because that's her son. And after birthing my son, that's like birthing my whole heart out. My grandma would be like, oh, send pictures to him. And I have no obligation to do that anymore. And if I wanted a relationship with him, I would have invited him to my wedding. There's no obligation for him to meet my son. And I want the chance of him hitting my son. My son does not deserve that. So I'd rather not. Past me would have been like, oh, it's okay. Sure. Out of guilt, out of fear, out of obligation. But now I know I don't have to do anything. I am living my life for myself and my family, and I'm going to do what's best for me and ultimately what's best for my family. This is not something I could have said 5 years ago. It took a very long time. The truth is, I had no boundaries growing up. And if I didn't do what I was told, I'd be hit. And if my family asked something of me, like, oh, go do this, get me that, I do it immediately without any questions asked because that's how I've been trained. And my body and my mind feel if I don't do it, there's going to be negative consequences after. And this is why I've always had trouble with jobs and authority, because I feel like if I don't do something they ask, it's over for me. I'm dead. And I do things even if I was sick. Even if I was on my period or I felt mentally drained, I would just constantly do and do until I had nothing left in my own cup. Because in my mind, love was conditional and approval came with performance. The psychologist says children that grow up in environments where boundaries are often violated often struggle to set any at all. I'm the living proof. And honestly, I didn't know how to set any boundaries until I met John and his siblings. They were the first people that I saw that could say no without feeling any guilt, who could confidently say no with their whole heart. For example, John would decline plans or requests from friends and family and if he didn't want to do it, and also he just couldn't. He couldn't do it because he's busy, works full time, and sometimes he's on call. He doesn't overpour from his own cup, and I found that so admirable because I would constantly overpour from my own cup. Honestly, I was shook because I was like, if you don't do something that someone else asks, you're not going to get hit or there's not going to be a negative consequence after. That's crazy. We met when we were 18. And at that time, I was still seeing my dad. He would come once a year from the US to my uncle's place. I actually had to retrace a lot of my history with John because I cannot for the life of me remember a lot of things in the past. It could be from traumatic experiences, me trying to block out memories, but thank God I have John because I talked about all of this with him and he remembers he remembers, and if he didn't, I have receipts, my past texts. The first time my dad visited, this was when things were pretty good. In fact, I think I missed him because it's been so long. And this was right after John and I's first date in 2015. My aunts came to pick me up and John saw all my aunts on our first date, which is crazy. My dad's a very confident and intelligent person, so I do enjoy talking to him as long as he doesn't demean or make jokes about hitting me, which we'll get into later. But something changed in 2016. John remembers me crying to him. I don't, but I do remember being very upset. But yeah, basically he criticized everything. My decision to go take physical environmental geography, which is like soil science and hydrology and all that, and environmental studies. He's like, this is useless. Why do you go to university for this? You should become an environmental engineer. And sure, I think some of it is pretty valid. Engineers make a lot more money. He was telling me that if I go into soil science and stuff, I would have to go into remediation for sites that need cleanup, and that could ultimately affect my health. But the way he did it was very demeaning. You're an idiot. Why would you do this, basically? And sure, he explained some of it, but I felt very defeated after because it took so much strength for me to even go back to school. Don't think I shared that story yet, but I took a gap year after my suicide attempt. I was supposed to go to University of Washington. I had a full scholarship, but I couldn't because I was so mentally broken. I was scared of everything, everyone. I tried for a week and I dropped out. Going back to school was a very difficult process. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a whole nother episode. Ultimately, his words, again, made me feel stupid and worthless. The next year I saw my dad was 2017. This was a particularly hard year for me. So we were watching One Piece, which is great because every time he comes over, we would watch One Piece, which is like my favorite anime of all time and my favorite show. I just love it, and I'm gonna make a whole episode about it. And then he makes a joke about hitting me. And I'm trying to remember the memory. It's painful. Yeah, we're all sitting on the couch. It was like me, my brother, my dad. He made that joke and it cut me like a knife. So many painful memories came flooding back when he said that. When it's good, it's, oh yeah, this is great. I have a great relationship with my dad. But then when he makes that one joke, I remember everything from the past. It's like it comes rushing to me. I start crying. I try to hold back my tears. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. I try to look away. I'm like fanning myself. I'm having a panic attack. And so I go to the washroom and it turns out to be a full-blown mental breakdown. My one regret was that I didn't have a getaway option. I didn't have my car. So I was stuck with my dad for 3 days. And this happened on the first night. Every time I'm around my dad, I always feel dumb and worthless. Making that joke was really like a breaking point. And this is hard for me to talk about. Take breaths. Actually, I'm really glad I'm talking about this because I remember digging up my past with my therapist, and every time I would become really tense and stop breathing. So it was just a reminder for me to take deep breaths and shake it out. Shake it up. She told me to shake it up. So here I am sweating and shaking it out. I just couldn't stop crying. Growing up, I always shared a room with my grandma and I loved it. Again, she was my safe space, so I always felt safe around her. And we would watch Korean dramas till late at night, so it was a great time. So anyways, I'm in my grandma's bed. Before that, let's backtrack a bit. I'm pretty sure my dad was like, go wash your face. And so I do. I take a shower. I try to wash my face. I try to brush my teeth, but I just can't contain it anymore. And I'm like bawling my eyes out. I'm having a full-on panic attack. I am hyperventilating. I can't breathe. And everyone's concerned. My grandma's, oh my God, is she having another mental episode like she did in 2015? She starts praying. And I feel like she started trying to do exorcism on me, like she's praying to God. I felt like I was being exorcised at that time. Yeah, I can laugh about this now. I think at one point she gets on her knees on the floor, and then I think my brother comes in, my uncle comes in, my dad comes in, my dad acting like he doesn't know what happened, which maybe because I didn't explain to him, but anyways, he never thinks it's his fault. He kept asking me what's wrong, and I just couldn't stop crying. And I remember it was the middle of the night now, and I was calling John, bawling my eyes out, and texting him. But I really wanted to leave. I was like, I have to get out of here, I have to get out of here. But it was the middle of the night, so I wait till the next day. According to American Psychological Association, when a child's boundaries are repeatedly violated, their nervous system becomes hypervigilant. And even in adulthood, they can experience intense emotional dysregulation in environments that feel unsafe or familiar in the wrong ways. No one saw the years of validation. The subtle and overt demeaning words, it was very normalized. It was just another day, but after years of not having him there and triggering me and making jokes about hitting me, yeah, it was like a shock to the system. I'm like, okay, now I realize why I live so far away from you. Like many survivors of childhood trauma, I became passive aggressive instead of assertive. And it's funny because I had a teacher in high school that said I was passive aggressive, and I took offense to that. But I didn't know how to be assertive. But there's a reason. I was never taught how to speak up. I was only taught how to survive. Because when you're in that abusive environment, you do things so you don't get hit or attacked or verbally assaulted. You're living in survival mode. My past therapists told me that the reason why I'm passive aggressive is because I never felt safe to express directly what my needs were. It took years of journaling. I remember having journals in middle school and high school. I would journal my feelings, and I think a lot of them was like, I hate my dad. And like years of learning that I have needs. It's okay to say no. And I think because I spent so much time around John and his family, it's normal to have boundaries. It's not you're going against your family's wishes. You're dishonoring your family if you have boundaries with them. I'm allowed to say no even if it makes other people uncomfortable. Family drama is always complicated. So if you're going to cut someone out, you really have to understand the full scope because everyone gets pulled in. Family systems are deeply interconnected. And when one member changes, like going with a toxic parent, it can trigger emotional ripple effects across the entire family. This is part of what is known as family systems theory, a psychological concept developed by Dr. Brown. These systems, roles, and behaviors are often rigid and passed down generationally, making boundaries feel like betrayal. Oh, it's Bowen, not Dr. Brown. Like Bowen Yang. Dr. Bowen emphasizes when one person differentiates or distances themselves from the dysfunction, the rest of the system often resists or pulls back and to restore the familiar balance, even if it's toxic. And ultimately, I've learned that peace is more important than keeping everyone else happy because other people's happiness is not worth you constantly tearing down your own boundaries just to make them satisfied. Peace is more important than performing for people that never tried to understand you in the first place. So if you ever felt guilty for cutting someone off, if your body reacts before your words do, if you're learning still how to say the words no without explaining yourself endlessly, because I'm definitely an over-explainer, you're not alone. Let's breathe. Thank you for holding space with me today. This episode was very heavy, but very necessary. I feel like we need to have these real kinds of conversations so that we can learn from each other and see that, hey, it's okay. It's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to cut out a family member who's toxic to you. It's okay to protect your peace and your mental health and your physical body and your sanity. And if this resonated with you, please share it with someone that you love. Maybe someone who's going through a similar situation, or maybe someone who's still healing from the past. You can also journal what came up for you after hearing this episode. Did you have a similar situation with a parent, family member, someone who didn't respect your boundaries, authority? I think it's important to write out your feelings. Maybe schedule a session with a therapist. Healing isn't linear, but it's powerful, and you deserve to be seen, heard, and understood. Until next time, keep advocating, keep healing, and keep being you, and keep choosing you. I'm Elizabeth Teal, and this is the Thoughtful Advocate podcast. Thank you. Okay, so today's sponsor is Kind Laundry. Just kidding, they're not really a sponsor, but I do have an affiliate code. Kind Laundry use natural ingredients, and it actually comes in these sheets. So much more useful than liquid laundry detergent because that stuff gets messy. With Kind Laundry, you can bring this anywhere. It's literally in a box, pack in your suitcase, and it's that easy. You can get 10% off by using code ZeroWasteCute.